There's some people.
Is that your mother calling you?
No, that's the thing. That's the thing. Okay, well, good morning, everyone. I hope the roads weren't too bad for you guys this morning to get here. So glad you could make it. Hope you had a good weekend. And yeah. So good times. So today is one of 2 days you'll be in class this week, Mondays and Thursdays. All right. And we will be out of here. I think it's like 8:57. Does anybody know for exactly when it is? Anybody?
It's 8:57, yeah.
Yes. Okay. And this is recorded. And so what I'm going to do to try to get people more engaged in the lesson is I'm going to show the PowerPoint just like always, but I'm not going to post the PowerPoints until we get to the end of the unit. And hopefully that'll get you guys kind of, I just looking at you guys, you don't strike me as the kind of people that just ignore the lesson and copy and paste the slides, but there are definitely people who do that. So when you go back through the lesson, you'll use the video until we get to the end, and then at the end I'll put the whole PowerPoint up. So weather's looking crazy for this week. So who knows what'll happen, but we'll stick on our same schedule. Let's see, there's something else. Oh, test scores are up. And the curve ended up being 6 points. But it's 6 points out of 55 because AP Classroom wouldn't let me make it out of 100 or whatever. And that's pretty close to what the curve tends to be on the AP exam. So you can kind of look at what you got out of 55 and kind of equate that to where you are as we move through. The AP exam date changed. And hang on just a second, and I will tell you exactly that date. So it got pushed back to May 20th. And that's like the week before school's out. So that gave us about 2 more weeks of review time, which is a good thing. Okay. So they updated Google Meet, and it totally screwed up the way Google Meet looks now. But anyway, all right. Trying to think. There's something else I wanted to tell you guys. Oh, if we get to a point where I don't finish a PowerPoint, your notes are only going to be over what I got up to. And hopefully today I can get back on track. I think I can, but I have some kind of complex things I have to talk about today. So don't hate me if we don't. The other thing is 2 more things. Active note taking is really important. And so you're taking notes on paper or you're taking notes on a Google Doc. For me to have the Google Meet up on one side of my screen, and then the Google Doc up on the other side is really helpful. Of course, I have a bigger screen than you guys. You guys have about the size of a Game Boy Advance screen that you guys are typing on. So I know how it is. So that, and also, we're getting to the point in the semester where I'm starting to expect people to stop me a lot more and ask me questions, and make comments. That's where I'm looking for class to go. And I want you guys to have the mindset of, when I stop the teacher to ask a question, I am not hurting the lesson, but I'm actually helping it, because I'm making a connection to the content that can help everybody. And a lot of you guys that had GoPo did that a lot, and it helped a lot in GoPo. So keep that in mind, okay? So today, the plan is to wrap up where we were on Friday, and then we're going to move on forward with 5.2. And I think I found a neat way to do this. Let's see. Okay. Yes. Okay. Nod your head if you can see the PowerPoint. Good. And it should be bigger and more awesome. Okay. To wrap up my struggles to talk about capitalism on Friday. Okay. I have a feeling that very few of you guys have laissez-faire parents. Okay. A laissez-faire parent is the kind of parent that if you came home at like 3 a.m. on a Tuesday night, they wouldn't even be waiting up. They'd be in the bed, and they wouldn't be expecting you to come in and say, "Hey, Mom, I'm home." And they'd be like, "Oh, that's nice, sweetie." It wouldn't even be that. They would just be in the bed. Whereas I've got a feeling your all's parents would be like at 9:01. Like if your curfew was at 9, they would be like, "Where the heck are you? Oh my God, I'm going to wring your little neck," right? All right. So that's not a laissez-faire parent. That's not a hands-off parent. And they're exactly the opposite. They're a hands-on parent. And a laissez-faire parent would be like, you get a report card, you have an F, they wouldn't even say anything about it. Or they'd be like, "Hey man, what's up with this F? You good with that?" Right? That's laissez-faire. Whereas a hands-on parent would be like, "Oh my God, you got to fix this." And so when we talk about laissez-faire in relationship to capitalism, the main aspect of capitalism is that the government is hands off. Let the economy do what it's going to do. Okay, raise your hand if you've ever ridden in a Ford car. A Ford car. Okay, cool. All right. If we were really capitalistic, and we're not in the United States, if that car was newer than a 2008, you would not have ridden in that car. Because in 2008, when the economy went into the Great Recession, President Obama like pumped all this federal money into Ford to keep Ford up and running, because all these towns had these Ford factories. And so that was the government being very hands-on. Okay, would you guys like to see my Donald Trump scooter? Check this out. That's my Donald Trump scooter there. Mine's in the back. Courtney's is the one with the pink helmet. So, people weren't spending money this past year. And so President Trump went and tried to be hands-on with the economy and send stimulus checks out to citizens so they would go spend money and kind of jumpstart the economy.
You just ruined the scooter for me.
Courtney, being the total lib that she is, just yelled in here that I ruined the scooter for her now. But we did our part as citizens and went out and spent the money. And that's not a Republican or a Democrat thing, because President Biden is planning on doing something similar, maybe even more money, right? And so we'll come back to this when we talk about communism, which is soon, actually. But communism is very hands-on. And in the US, we're a mix, okay? If someone tells you we are pure capitalists, they misunderstand what capitalism is, because capitalism is hands-off, okay? Now, let's talk about deism, okay? So you probably hear people say that the founding fathers were Christians, and therefore we're a Christian nation, okay? And that's very true, that we that the founding fathers were Christians. Now, are we a Christian nation? By the majority of Americans are Christian, but you guys know from the Establishment Clause in the Bill of Rights that, you know, we can't have an official religion. But there's this little caveat with the founding fathers, in that most of them were deists. Okay, does anybody know what the root dio or dia means in Latin? Anybody?
Is it like God?
Oh, sorry. I mean, yes, it's God. Dios, right? In Italian, Dios is God. So when we were in Italy, when it would start raining, I would, in my best Italian accent, go, "Grazie Dios," thanking God for raining on my vacation. I guess you probably shouldn't be sarcastic, God, I'm sorry. So deism is this philosophy in religion. And it basically says, it's kind of cocky for us to think that God is sitting back watching me at Dairy Queen when the lady puts sugar in my coffee as opposed to Splenda, and I get mad and kind of scowl at her, that God's got more important things to do than be keeping a super close eye on Mr. Brock. They are against the idea of we are ants in an ant farm and God's just tapping on the glass. Okay. Deist instead, and if you connect the word deism to watchmaker, that'll help you know what deism is. Deists think that God is a watchmaker, and you got to understand that in like 1650, a watchmaker is probably like the craziest, most talented person on the planet, right? Because it's these tiny little gears and it's really intricate, right? And so they see the world as this giant watch. God created it, and showing how awesome God is. Like, they have complete reverence for God, but they believe that God wound up the watch and then he walked away. Okay. And not that God abandoned us. It's just that we have such a poor understanding of God. Okay. And I totally see how that is kind of counter to a lot of people's religion today. Counter to most people's religion today across every major religion, right? But this was the mindset of a lot of the founding fathers, a lot of them. Thomas Paine, Common Sense, remember this guy? Thomas Paine, from way back in the day, he said that we're getting taxated without being represented, right? That's a joke. Neither of those words are words. Here's a good quote. The deist needs none of those tricks and shows called miracles to confirm his faith. For what can be a greater miracle than the creation itself and his own existence? And so deists definitely take a scientific approach to God. And if you guys remember in an earlier lesson, we talked about how, you know, there's a certain percent of religious people who look at miracles and a lot of this a lot of the lessons in the Bible as metaphors, right? And a lot of people look at them as definitely happened. All right. And please note, your boy is not here telling you one way or the other. Okay, not my job. But the deists really look at it in the first way. These are metaphors, and they look at creation. And if you think about it, however you see the creation of the earth and where humans are today, whether you see it as a scientific process or you see it as a supernatural process or you see it as a divine process, it's pretty miraculous, right? And so the deists definitely take that ramp off to kind of coming somewhere in the middle. Okay. So that's deism. Deism equals watchmaker. All right. Where we are going today, I think this is the last slide. Almost last. What? I put them all together? No, okay. I see what we're doing. All right. So a word you're going to see is a philosoph. A philosoph. Philos means love. And osophy means study of or knowledge. So the philosophes or the it's just a French word for philosophers. They have a love of knowledge. And here's some of the big deals. The Enlightenment, and I don't know that I've given the best definition of the Enlightenment so far, so I'll go ahead and do that. The Enlightenment is reason can answer all questions. Retro. I guess we've just determined the amount of power I can have in the bedroom. I don't think it works that way.
Yeah, the outlet here on the wall is on the side.
Do you care to flip it? Okay. I thought the power went out, but Courtney just has. Yeah, right. Okay, so logic and reason, and there we go. We can explain everything, and they start talking about natural laws. Natural, meaning they come from nature. And you see all these white dudes here? Well, there's ladies there. How did they let ladies into this? When they go and they say natural laws, they're definitely, for the most part, saying natural means it comes from God. Okay. And all these laws make the universe happen. And your boy Newton is really going to be the catalyst for that. Okay. A good word for the philosophes is progressive. Progressive. No, not the insurance. I see some of you guys have watched commercials before. Okay. A progressive looks to the future. A progressive says it sucks right now. It definitely sucked in the past. And we've got to fix it for the future. We've got to fix it for the future. Okay. And so if you look at modern progressives, and I'm sure I will make some of you liberals angry right now, but a lot of people, I think most people, use the term liberal and progressive interchangeably. And for a liberal, a progressive, they definitely want to get us to a different spot that we've not been to before. Okay. And when we talk about social progressives, the further left we go, the more extreme the future looks like than today. Right? The super far left is communism. Right? I'm so old, I started teaching when gay marriage was illegal in a bunch of states, right? And so I would always give the example of progressives are definitely the kind of people who would say, you know, in the future, gay marriage should be illegal anywhere in the United States. And so in that instance, in 2015, the progressives won a battle that they've been fighting for a long time. But we could go back 50 years and you could have a teacher talking about how the progressives believe that people of different races should be allowed to get married in every state. And so progressives definitely are looking at tomorrow and trying to get there as quick as possible. Whereas a conservative really wants to hold on to conservative values. Now, if we look at something like gay marriage, like a lot of conservatives believe that, you know, it should be okay for gay people to live together or civil unions, but they have a different view of marriage, right? And I definitely wouldn't say that most conservatives are against people of different races getting married. That's just not what most modern conservatives say. But progressive, the philosophes are major progressives. Okay. And then natural rights come from God. Natural rights come from God. And if we fast forward a little bit to this guy named Thomas Jefferson, who is going to end up spending a lot of time in France. If you guys have seen Hamilton or watched it or listened to it 75 times. Thomas Jefferson spends a lot of time in France with these philosophers, and he comes back with a phrase that he puts in the Declaration of Independence, that people are endowed by their creator certain unalienable rights. Endowed means given, like an endowment. And so we are endowed by our creator. God has given us these natural rights. Okay. Now, ooh, look at these cool pictures. We have, this is Columbus landing in what is today the Dominican Republic. Anybody have a guess of who this is?
Martin Luther.
Yes, great job. Here's Martin Luther. I can't see that one very well. I can't see this one very well. And this is probably, no, he's in Italy. I was gonna say maybe that's Galileo. Who knows? All right. I made this like literally 10 years ago. All right. So let's go through the timeline. All right. Remember when remember that the Renaissance is very progressive, and they question the Middle Ages, the Dark Ages. Okay, the Dark Ages. And they're like, we're so much smarter than that now, right? Remember that the Renaissance goes back to ancient Greece and Rome, and they are all about empiricism, which we talked about on Friday. And they come up with this phrase, humanism. And I'm going to type a thing in here. Let's see. I guarantee this doesn't work. See, told you. There's a quote by Pythagoras. And it is, man is the something in measure. I can't remember. Is the oh, it's just man is the measure of all things. Okay. And so this is humanism. I'm still sharing. Am I still sharing? Yeah. Okay. Humanism is you want to be the best person, well-rounded. So you get people like Leonardo da Vinci, who is a painter, a sculptor, a poet, a military strategist. If any of you guys have played Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, a philosopher, an anatomist, and we call these people Renaissance men. So a Renaissance man or a Renaissance person, it's 2021. Let's include anybody in on this, human beings, right? A Renaissance person is someone who is good at a lot of different things. So they use it a lot of times in sports, like in basketball, you know, someone who's not just good at getting rebounds, but someone's good at getting rebounds and shooting 3-pointers or throwing elbows, and or you know, they're very fast, right? Someone who gets rebounds tends to be really slow, and so they call this person a Renaissance person, someone that has a lot of different skills. Planning on going to college, try to be a Renaissance person. Try to be involved in a lot of after-school activities and to be good at those after-school activities. I can't tell you how many times I've written letters of recommendation where a kid has thrown me like 15 clubs that they're in. And it's like, okay, you're in 15 clubs, cool. But then I'll have another kid say, okay, I'm the president of Club A, I'm the vice president of Club B, and I'm the president of Club C. And that's more impressive, because you're not just someone who sits there and listens to the people leading 15 meetings, but you're leading 3 meetings. But that's a Renaissance person. Take someone like me. I'm very good at skateboarding video games. I kill a lot of people in Assassin's Creed video games. I also like playing Super Mario Odyssey. See, Renaissance man, that's me. Okay. So Renaissance man's important. Okay, let me see if I can make this work again. Of course, it's that. Age of exploration is going to lead for, we are looking for new stuff. We're looking for foreign stuff. Okay. The idea of people who are just stuck on a farm starts to change. And there's definitely a difference between someone who has, someone like me, when I was in high school, I was a sophomore in college before I ever went to a state that doesn't touch Kentucky. Like, seriously. And so I was not widely traveled, and I didn't have as diverse of a thought process. Okay. Now I've been to a lot of different places, and that influences me. Okay. And so that influences society. Protestant Reformation's a really big deal because pretty much everybody west of Greece was Catholic, right? Was Catholic. So much so that they didn't even call themselves Catholics. They just called themselves Christians, right? And then here goes Martin Luther. And then we end up getting, eventually, more than half of those European Catholics, especially in Northern Europe, are going to look at what for centuries has been church and say, you're telling me how to do it wrong. I'm going to follow this new way. And that's a big deal. Big deal. And then, oh, okay, that's got to be your boy Louis XIV. All right, absolute monarchs. Do you guys remember Louis XIV, the fancy boy wearing the bedspread and the ballet shoes? The absolute monarchs, we are quickly figuring out these guys suck. Okay. And people are writing about this, and this is moving out to lots of different places, and lots of people are seeing this. And here's another thing I would put near that slide is printing press. and literacy increases. You know, if we didn't have the printing press, if we didn't have higher literacy rates, we wouldn't have these these huge mobs that are going to take over a number of governments in lessons 3, 4, and 5. We're not going to have the French Revolution. We're not going to have the American Revolution. You know, Thomas Paine printed common sense, right? And common sense leads to the Boston Tea Party, because everybody found out about the Boston Massacre. How did everybody find out about the Boston Massacre? Well, newspapers were a big friggin' deal. You know, Ben Franklin got his start as a Boston newspaper editor. Then he goes to Philadelphia, and everybody thinks of Philadelphia as a Ben Franklin place. Oh my God, I can't not teach you this. So the governor of Massachusetts had smallpox was a big deal. Like, a lot of people were getting smallpox. And of course, the natives got smallpox. We talked about that. But a lot of the Europeans got smallpox too. And so some wackadoo doctor is like, you know, I think if we inject just a little bit of mercury in people as a vaccine, I think, you know, because it's metal's strong. If we give them a little bit of mercury in their arm, that's probably going to stop the smallpox crap. And Ben Franklin and his brother, I don't know, Gary, were like, they ran the newspaper, and they're like, no, don't take this vaccine. And then the governor puts out warrants for their arrest, and they're like, and they go to Philadelphia. And that's how Ben Franklin, a good old-fashioned Boston boy, ends up in Philadelphia, which is fun. And maybe we can apply that to modern stuff. And then, oh, Bailey, you Google that. Okay, don't come at me like that. All right. Hang on just a second. James is a good name. I mean, okay. Here's a naked corpse. So the scientific revolution leads to the Enlightenment. And this would be the slide I would use if I had to redo yesterday or Friday's lesson and today and do it really quick. They take logic, they take the scientific revolution, scientific method, and they apply it to society. Okay, they apply it to society. Okay. Why can't women think as well as men? Well, let's do studies. Let's see. Oh, and then what do you find out if you're really doing a scientific study? You find out they can, right? You start to look at things that justify slavery. And then, sorry to say the communist word this early in the morning, but why is it fair for just a few people to have all this money, to have all this power? And so a lot of people start pushing these ideas. All right, we're thinking about things in a different way. And so here we have a really cool, this is a Rembrandt painting, a really cool hat guy. And he's like, hey, I don't know if you guys can see, but his arm is all skint. And he's like, look inside, there's a hole in the arm. And this guy's like, oh, fun times. And this is the astronomer where Mr. This guy's name is Mr. Grayhair. And Mr. Grayhair's like, look at this. And the kids are like, oh, okay, I don't care. And they're it's trying to show the orbit of stars and such. Oh no, there's another thing here. I know. What the heck? All right, I'm freaking out a little bit. No. Hmm? I think my computer. Well, anyway, that goes to the Enlightenment, which is an application of scientific method to society. Okay. Now, let's go over to my other thing. And I kind of felt like I would probably get behind here because this is such importante stuff. Nope. Why does... Okay. Hang on, friends. Okay. Okay. Now we got it. Having problems, children. Please. Please. To. Ha ha ha. Now I'll present this. Okay. Nod your head if you see lesson 5.2. I don't know what's happening. Okay, hang on. I love being such an old man. Ah. Okay. Okay, I got it fixed, I swear. I got it fixed. Nod your head if you see a really weird looking dude. Guys, that hurts my feelings. Do you get it? I think I'm pretty normal looking if I had hair. All right. Here is Thomas Hobbs. All right. You guys that had accelerated last year, did you learn about Locke and Hobbs? Yeses? Okay, cool. All right. So they had this English Civil War in England. And it is basically king versus parliament. Okay. Parliament wins because the king, as you can see here, stopped having a head. Okay. And so Parliament wins. And so this is when we start the parliamentary democracy in England. And Thomas Hobbes who was paid by the king to write his books, says, this sucks. We need to go back to our good king. By the way, I mean, Jesus picked him, right? Jesus was like, hey, king, you need to be the king, right? Are we going against Jesus now? And so Hobbes has this idea, and really, if you get this note right here, you'll get Hobbes. Hobbes has this idea that people are selfish. People are hungry for power. We've got to protect the people from themselves. Okay. So this is an oversimplification to say that Hobbes hates. Okay. But we say hates because it starts with the same letter. Hobbes has this really famous quote where he says, before there was government, life was nasty, brutish, and short. Until a great king came along and told everybody to chill out. Okay. Oh, someone said a thing, but I don't see it. Hang on. Silas.
Is he the one who wrote the Leviathan, or is that someone else?
Yep, that's him, Leviathan. Yep. And so I'm glad you said that, because I wasn't gonna talk about that, but I think I should. So his book's called The Leviathan, and the Leviathan is in the Bible. It's like this giant in the Bible. But his take on the Leviathan is this. There's this giant monster that doesn't have a head that comes up out of the ocean and starts stomping on people's houses and setting fires and raising all sorts of heck throughout the town. And everybody's like, what can we do? Oh my Lord, here comes the Leviathan. And there's this great man who led the people for so long. He's known as the Philosopher King. And he climbs up the Leviathan, stands where the head would be, and starts like pulling these ropes and chains and making the Leviathan like build the houses back and put out the fires and build like walls to keep the bad guys out, and building in-ground swimming pools and stuff like that. And it's really rad. And so the metaphor there is that the Leviathan are the people, or is the people, and the Leviathan is going to destroy everything unless there's a good leader to keep the Leviathan under control. And so that Philosopher King is going to keep them on the straight and narrow. Okay. So that's Hobbes. Hobbes does not trust the people. Okay. Now, if you're thinking, golly, that doesn't sound very much like democracy, you'd be right. Okay. Now, let's go over to Sweet Grandma. Oh, not Sweet Grandma yet. Here's old Fancy Boy again. Hello. Look at him being all fancy with those legs. They don't stop, do they? And check out those shoes. It would be hard to dance in those shoes, right? All right. So monarchs like Louis XIV. Louis XIV is the best example of an absolute monarch. And Hobbes is an Enlightenment thinker. Hobbes doesn't line up with the God chose the king idea. Hobbes lines up with the idea of we've seen people be crappy. We need someone who's snappy. I just came up with that. We need someone who is going to keep everybody in line. Okay. And so Hobbs is one of many people that are going to talk about this social contract. Okay. People who were in Accelerated last year, did you talk about the social contract? I'm getting no's. I'm getting blank stares. Perfect. All right. So here's the social contract. I'm going to give up some of my rights to the king, and the king is going to protect me. The king's going to build a great wall. The king's going to have an army. The king is going to build roads. The king is going to set up a market, right? The king is going to be good to me. And I'm going to give up some rights. You guys give up rights to go to school, right? It's against the law for someone who's under 18 to smoke. Oh, sorry, to buy cigarettes, but it's not against the law for you to smoke. So if you are just chilling at Wendy's at 10 a.m. on a Tuesday, you have the right to smoke a big fat ciggy, right? But once you go to school, you don't have that right. You've given up that right in exchange for an education, right? You've given up the right to dress scantily, right? In your own home, you can be buck naked. You have that right. You don't have that right at school. So we're giving up rights in exchange for protection. This is the freedom versus security argument. Hobbs is going to say security is more important than freedom. But here comes the sweet old grandma. He's made you some cookies because he loves you. His name is John Locke. And you can probably guess that Locke loves. Okay. John Locke is going to be the exact opposite of Hobbes. Now, if we look at Locke and Hobbes for the amount of time we're looking at them today, we can say Hobbes is kind of a modern conservative, social conservative for sure. Hobbes is. And Locke is more of a social liberal or progressive. All right. Please know it's way more complicated than that. Things that don't fit that. Guns, abortion, taxes, they don't fit that line. Okay. But it's definitely Locke and Hobbes are diametrically opposed foes. Okay. And so after the English Civil War, there's going to be this thing called the Glorious Revolution. And the Glorious Revolution was when Parliament now has a lot more power. The king is dead. His head is gone. Where does head go? I don't know. Can somebody find it? Parliament has a lot more power, and Parliament says, let's pick this lady named Mary and this fella named William and Mary, and let's make them the king and the queen. Okay? And William and Mary are going to be the first monarchs chosen by Parliament as opposed to God. And that's a very different, more modern idea. All right, so that's where I have to stop today. All right, and I actually didn't do too bad. because all these other guys at the end, it's basically one thing. It doesn't need a lot of explaining. All right, so hopefully you guys have second period that you're going to go to after this. All right, or you're going to go back to sleep and this is just going to be a bad dream. But regardless, I really do appreciate you guys coming. If you came in late, go do the attendance assignment. And I will see you when I see you, okay? But please send me emails. Oh, yeah, please send me emails, and I got to go. Abby, you raising your hand or just, okay. So I do have to go to second period, but you got, hopefully it snows enough so we can go build snowman, okay? Okay, all right, bye. Oh, I didn't realize that second period people would be coming into the same room. Sorry. As you guys get here, go do the attendance assignment. And we will go from there. I'm going to stop recording this session and then start recording it again. So that'll take a few seconds.